This is Joe Pugh for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined on this Monday evening, by Mr. Gareth A Davies. Gareth, very busy week of boxing, bare knuckle, whilst you pour your tequila.
Yeah,
First of all, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. A little Easter Monday tequila, a little bit of vape. Oh my God, here I've got the double apple I prefer actually. Cheers to you and all yours and all the subscribers, fans, haters, lovers at IFL TV.
Yes, it's
Happy
been
Easter.
it's been an eventful Easter in the boxing world. I'm
We're into the
visiting
egg
Meg
week.
here.
Egg week, isn't it?
I like it. I like it. Let's start off with last night. Whitaker Cameron 2. Ben Whittaker gets the second round stoppage. First of all, what did you make of Ben Whittaker 2.0 under Andy Lee?
Yeah, well, all of those things are well put. Ben Whittaker 2.0 under Andy Lee was fantastic. I thought he was fantastic in the build-up as well. He kept his counsel. He didn't speak too much. He let his talking and his walking happen in the ring. He was very good. You can argue the toss over whether the stoppage was early or not from Howard Foster, but he did the one thing that I really needed him to do, and many other fans needed him to do, which was carry the weight of and burden of expectancy, deal with the boos from people that dislike him for no other reason other than that he's a showman, who probably did pull Cameron over the ropes in Riyadh because he wasn't having it his own way, but all his own way. But he's carried himself so well since then. We saw his emotion in the press conference afterwards, which I loved. The human side of him, the young man in him, the growing human being, the vulnerable human being that so many fighters are. But I think he dealt with the enmity from the crowd, the booing very well, and was himself, stuck to his game plan, went out there in and out, set Cameron up for a huge right hand, couple of body shots, trapped him on the ropes, and Howard Foster, much as Roy Jones Jr. used to do, flurries of punches, and refs used to step in. I understand Liam Cameron's frustration and his team's frustration because he didn't get off the game plan he was clearly looking at, which was absorb, put a little bit of pressure on in each round and take him late. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for him.
Yeah, look, the build up was kind of taken up by 10 rounds, 12 rounds. In the end, it didn't need that. And I feel like with Ben Whittaker, a lot of questions have been asked for him throughout his whole professional career about turning that screw. We know the skills he got, and he did that last night, didn't he? And showed that he can certainly carry this power at 175 pounds.
Yeah, and Cameron's a very tough man, so what he pulled off was brilliant. I mean, I was expecting him to win this time, but just do the dance, outbox him over 10 rounds and have to go into the trenches every now and again with Cameron coming on strong. But he proved he's got power. You know, Cameron knew after the first fight, or at least put out there, that Whitaker couldn't hurt him, but he did hurt him. And anyone can be hurt at any time in boxing because you find the sweet spot and you've hurt your opponent. That's what Cameron did so well, so poorly. No, that's what Whitaker did so well. And so the game plan looked poor from Cameron because he got caught early on. I understand his frustration. I understand his team's frustration at the fact that Whitaker came over and the relief inside him made him do that, what people have called classless act. He said himself, I wish I hadn't done it. The teams are only reacting to emotion and testosterone in the moment, like we're all reacting in the moment on broadcasts or the quick interviews that go up online or go digital and go viral minutes after the fight. There was so much to talk about, even though it was only less than 2 minutes of action. But Whitaker walked the walk of a guy who can really go on after that. In his 10th fight, in a big occasion, 10,000 people in there, massive build-up, loads of controversy. Thought Ben Shalom shielded him very well in fight week. He did a great job of that, and I spoke to Ben Shalom about that afterwards. That he needs to learn to love and embrace the controversy, not think everybody's going for him. When people are going for him, it's making the fight bigger. It's making the event bigger, and that's what happened for last night.
Yeah, look, I know you mentioned what was deemed as classless act.
Spitgate.
Yeah, yeah, I think Grant Smith's come out and said he didn't spit. But nevertheless, just picking up on something you said there, it's all the intensity of the moment, not just for Ben Whittaker, but for yourself, the broadcasters, and they've got to, yourselves have got to say what you're thinking at that time. Do you feel like, with a little bit of hindsight, maybe some of the comments were harsh, not from yourself, but through the wider boxing landscape last night?
Well, but Spittiker came up last night. A week ago it was Whitaker. But the thing is this, and I spoke to Tony, Big Tone, Ben Whittaker's dad at ringside, and said, "Listen, those boos are brilliant for him. The fact that people think he's a villain is brilliant for him. He's got 3 million followers on Instagram. They're there for a reason. People are going to love him and hate him. 10-80-10 rule. 10% always love you, 10% always hate you, and the 80s in the middle just swing with the times. He can be a really big star because people will want to put bulls in there with him, see real bullish, heavy punching fighters. And if he keeps on winning against them and even stopping them, he'll win all the people over. You know, it's what Mayweather did to brilliant effect. He's the template, he's the blueprint for these things. And there's nothing wrong with being the villain in boxing. There's nothing wrong with being flash and brash and pizzazzy and showing razzmatazz and people going, "Oh, that's all he is," and dancing like a ballet, like a Nureyev in the ring. As long as he delivers at the end of it and he either wins or he stops people, he's going to keep growing his fans. He'll keep growing his haters, but he'll just get bigger and bigger. He as was proven, it wasn't Spitgate either. That was a momentary story. It was the excitement, the relief, and it was him expectorating all over the place. It's when you throw your saliva around because you're screaming and shouting. I think he described it as I was roaring like a lion, and there were dribbles coming out of my mouth. Not spitting at anyone. He's not a classless person. They're a very classy group of people, as are Cameron's people as well, by the way.
Yeah. What did you make of Ben Shalom's little dance that's gone slightly viral after the fight? I know Lee Eaton, Liam Cameron's manager and of Queensbury, was a little bit frustrated with his reaction. We spoke to Lee today, and he said, in the cold light of day, if he's being honest, he would have probably done the same thing if Liam Cameron had won. But what did you make of that?
Listen, Lee, I love Lee. He's the nuts and bolts of the industry. I mean, even I had a run in with Lee last night because I tried to interview Liam Cameron on his way out. And Liam Cameron's team and Lee were very unhappy about that. And they dived in on me with the microphone. And I completely understood why they did it. All I was trying to do was my job at the time. And I'd called Liam. He turned to speak to me because I actually wanted to find out whether he had something to say or not. Because he wasn't interviewed in the ring, was he? So, and I have no issue with their feelings about me doing the wrong thing there. I was literally doing my job. Lee's very honest about boxing. He knows it inside out. And like you said, he's a big character. He's over here or he's over. He'd have been celebrating. He'd have been running around the arena, getting the boos for Ben Whittaker going, maybe, or whatever. Lee knows how it works. I did mention Ben Shalom's little jig, the dance, to him just before we went live on Talk Sport after the fight. And I said, you know what that reminded me of? Eddie Hearn running into the ring when Carl Froch was fighting the French Canadian. Sorry,
Lucien Boutte?
Lucien Boutte. Yes. And Eddie ran into the ring before the fight was actually called off. because he had Boutte on the ropes collapsing, and Eddie's jumped in there and he's picking Carl up, and the ref hadn't even called the fight off yet, which would have got his guy disqualified. And I was reminding Ben last night of that being Eddie's moment, which I was pleased for him. He's taken a lot of flack in the last few weeks, Ben Shalom. He shielded his man very well. And as I said to him on the broadcast, you'll have learnt from this week as well. You're getting flack from Frank Warren. Eddie Hearn's putting the knife in. Everybody's having a go at you. Lee Eaton's got you over the coals, and you're paying more money because of the 10 rounds, not the 12 rounds. And just enjoy it, because this is making your promotion, you, and the whole event more famous. And that's what made it 10,000 people in there. Come on, we only got 2 rounds, but I'm not joking. I know you weren't there in person last night. It must have looked good on TV, because in the arena it's like a big world title fight. It had that feel about it. Fraser Clark had won again, and we were all relieved for him. I think there was a kind of collective relief for Fraser Clark, and it was great to speak to him ringside. He's been very powerful in the build-up to this. I'm talking about his own mental health issues. Eggington and Cutler, Lee Cutler and Sam Eggington, had an old school war like Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward for 8 rounds. I had them 4 apiece. So the atmosphere was really building. And so it was a great night. But Ben will have learnt a lot from that. Whitaker and the Bens will have learnt from that a lot. Whitaker and Shalom.
Okay, moving on, Gareth. I know you was at the bare knuckle, but Dalton Smith the night before, he got a pretty comprehensive points victory over
Oh, it was
Jermaine
a
Jones.
shutout, wasn't it? It was a shutout, wasn't
It
it?
was
Yeah.
it was a shutout, and I think Jermaine may have broke his jaw in the second round, so he was very reluctant to commit for the rest of the fight. So he was kind of running around the ring trying to avoid Dalton Smith, which was frustrating for Dalton anyway. But
Well, he was
you
down
know,
twice, wasn't he? I think
he
from
was
watching the highlights.
he was
Yeah.
down twice, but he's mandatory for that WBC title now. Puello's taking his voluntary, and then that fight will happen. But yeah, Dalton Smith's ready for a world title now, isn't he, Gareth?
I think so. And Adam Azim was there last night, and we
Yep.
spoke to him about it. If the money's right and the time is right, those two will meet, and that's a terrific fight for us. Again, it's going to be off the charts when those two meet. They need to be slightly bigger in terms of being household names. These are the opportunities now. That was a quiet card in Sheffield for him to win. He did the job. People will complain he didn't stop him, but it was comprehensive. He's got the rounds in the can. He didn't get hurt himself. He didn't get cut. He didn't get damaged. As I say, I'm sure I've said it to you before, and I've said it to him. He fights like a man with 2 axes in his hand, like a Viking. Very different style to Adam Azim and some of the other guys in the 10 stone division, but he's a great fighter. So that was, he's on track. He's definitely on track. World title next, brilliant.
I spoke to Dalton in the build up to the fight, and 2 weeks' time, there's 3 very big 140-pound fights at Times Square, which is 6 140-pounders. No cuts, no injuries. If he stays on weight and there's a pull out, he could slot right in there, and he'd be more than up for that.
His best option would be Ryan Garcia,
Yeah.
because I think Tio Lopez is very slippery on his day, and as is Devin Haney. Right now, I could see him having a chance against Ryan Garcia, but getting beaten by Devin Haney and Tio Lopez. Just my pick.
Hmm?
Not, I'd love Dalton to win. Don't get me wrong, but I think a little more experience, a bit more graduation before those two. But like you say, be ready, because if he gets the call, we'd love to see him there. Although it looks like more of an all-American affair, or that side of the pond affair right now, rather than British fighters getting the call from Turkey.
Yeah, of course. A lot's got to happen, but we've definitely seen wilder things in boxing.